Well, hello everybody. Welcome to Heads Up Hockey. This is Jersey Joe once again, and this is going to be an interesting game night where the Devils go in to play against the New York Islanders. Also, we got to talk more about the rest of the season and what can the Devils achieve before the playoffs really start. And what can they do? And another thing is, we might just talk about the West for a little bit. Why? Because you gotta think about who you might end up going against, regardless. So let's start off. All right, so the betting exchange. So I'm looking at the channel. They put the Devils in for Metropolitan winner for what, plus 1,500. Yeah, I don't care about winning the whole entire Eastern Conference. That's all Boston. Um, they're present trophy winners for a good reason, but the Devils are more focused on winning the rest of their games. And with tonight being puck drop happening very soon, right around 7:30 p.m. So this would count in the standings as game 74. So less than 9 games. If the Devils win all nine, theoretically, that's basically 18 points outstanding. So that would mean the Devils would get no more than 118 points. If they win half that, that's 109. If they don't, if they go on a major slump, that's just they stick at 100. But right now, you're looking at on average 109. So really, the Devils are just looking to win tonight against the Islanders to be 6 points up on the Rangers and then take on the Rangers at home. And I'm actually wearing this reverse retro jersey because the Devils are playing away at the Islanders. So I just thought it would look good for you to see right now. So that being said, the Devils have a good schedule. It's still rather tough, but it's not going to be as hard as like the past couple months. They can certainly achieve a lot after winning and clinching against the Ottawa Senators. So, with that being mentioned, there is a lot of stuff that this team can do, not just on paper, but on the ice and off the ice. So, they already know they're in the playoffs. This team has achieved 100 points in 73 games. They have 26 road wins as of now, and they could break that record of 28 if they want to. And at one point in their franchise, within 51 wins, they also had 111 points. That's doable at this rate. But I digress. This team needs to just focus on playing one game at a time. Like my buddy Neil Villapiano said, they need to play every game as a game seven. You don't want to take the hard teams like Boston lightly. You don't want to take the soft teams like Columbus and Chicago lightly because you just never know sometimes. They might play you a lot tougher than you expect. And this is the NHL. And stuff has happened. And a lot can occur. And you want to get hot at this time of year because once you get an edge against your upcoming playoff opponent and they're going into the playoffs a little cold, you got an upper hand against that team. It could be the Rangers at 50%. You could be facing maybe Pittsburgh, Islanders, whoever. It depends on a few variables. So that's why we're focused on this and now. And if Pittsburgh and the Islanders start slipping, you're looking at teams like Buffalo, Washington, and Florida knocking them off the perch. But right now, it's the Islanders and Penguins' uh, job to win those games and lose those games. So that's up to them, not up to us. But as long as we put pressure on other teams, that's what matters. So let's talk about the Western Conference. I was there versus Minnesota, and I knew because of the goaltending situation, Gustafson was not going to be an easy target to defeat. By getting a goal against an elite young level goaltender, it shows how well the Devils were able to deal with adversity, and they played like it was a playoff game. A little sloppy, but they were able to increase their odds even after giving up that second period uh, net that net mouse scramble, as Doc Emmerich would call it. For me, it's one of those pickleball, quick dinking, right over the net type play. So it's just one of those really hard plays to stop. And it just makes me think about, sometimes you got to deal with these things that help you prepare for those outcomes in the playoffs. And Minnesota could go past the first round if if they outlast the Dallas Stars and the Colorado Avalanche, and they're within a point. So this makes the Metropolitan look a lot further apart than the Central Division in the West. And Dallas and Colorado can turn on any moment because they can score, they can defend, and they can have a really good goaltending tandem. Now, if you look at the Pacific, they're a little further distance, socially distanced by 5 and 7 games apart from the Edmonton Oilers for first and third. So Vegas and LA have some distance and separation from Edmonton, but Vegas and LA are neck and neck. There is little to no breathing room. So if Vegas loses and LA wins, they also have the same amount of games in hand at 73. By the time this recording is done, it's going to be lesser and lesser. So it could go down to the wire. And it looks like two of those three teams could hit 100 points easily. Seattle and Winnipeg in the current wild card. So Seattle has 3 points up on Winnipeg, and the Devils do play Winnipeg coming up. And if Calgary starts getting hot at the right time and Winnipeg gets cold, Winnipeg's season could be over. Winnipeg might be like, what did we do wrong? And what can we do to prevent this next year? So I take that as a grain of salt, not just as a Devils fan, but if I was a fan in Winnipeg, I'd be a little bit more concerned because of the defense and the goaltending needs to improve. Seattle could easily make the playoffs and maybe clinch a berth. So that second wild card Could come down to Winnipeg or Calgary or even Nashville. Um, Vancouver and Seattle and St. Louis, no way at this rate. So at this point, um, the West is very, very close. And I think there's more speed and open space with the Eastern Conference. And there is a lot of physicality, but the West is more run and gun, super physical, more old school, different style. And I wouldn't be surprised to see if the West wins the Stanley Cup because usually the Eastern Conference batters each other for the most part. And Colorado won it last year because Tampa Bay was just, tired from the past two times winning the Stanley Cup. And, you know, guys like Palat just couldn't beat Kemper and Francouz in the Stanley Cup, and Colorado with McKinnon and Rantanen, just to name a few guys. They came up clutch. They came up big. They came in depth, and all that matters. So my question is, how many games would the Devils and Rangers series last if they face each other? That depends on how Gallant and Ruff field their two teams within a 7-game series. Team like Boston, they could be the President's Trophy winner for all I care, but they could still be cursed and bounced out of the first or second round. And I don't know when the last time a President's Trophy hockey team won the Stanley Cup, but it's been a curse since the past many decades. So, with that being said, there's a lot of stuff, and it is crazy to think like people assume, oh, this big market team's going to win it, this small market team's going to win it. I've heard before, and I've seen again, every team starts off at 0. And once puck drop starts, those season statistics go out the window. I remember when the Devils dominated Tampa Bay in 2017, 2018. That didn't matter. The Devils got ousted in 5 games in the first round, and it wasn't pretty. However, that Tampa Bay team that got swept a year before that by the Columbus Blue Jackets, they learned from that experience. They used it on our Devils, and it wasn't a pretty sight. And there are Devils players from that team still in 2017, 2018 that are going to have a bad taste in their mouth, go up against the Rangers or someone, depending on who they play. They're going to play very tough. Guys like Hala, guys like Palat, Vanacek, they're all going to want to win big time. They're going to want to play above expectations. And if Vanacek doesn't do well in these last 9 games, I mean, not Vanacek, if Blackwood doesn't do well in these last 9 games, Schmid could be called up. But, at this time of year, I remember the Tampa Bay Lightning exploiting that there is no salary cap requirements in the playoffs. And I learned that the hard way, seeing what Elliot Friedman and those guys wrote. So, with that being mentioned, Heads Up Hockey is 4 years old, 5 seasons old. Why? Because of the illness era slowed things down a lot, and there wasn't a lot of hockey to talk about then. But this podcast has come a long way, and I'm very happy with um, talking more broadly about hockey in general and not just, all things Devils. But you're more than welcome to write in the comment section here on YouTube. This is on anchor.fm, Spotify, everywhere you can find a podcast. Well, anchor.fm is now called Spotify for podcasters. So it is Spotify owned, but also if you're on Apple or even Amazon Music, it's on there. And I want to talk a little bit about the Michigan Penn State game. Yeah, I may not be fond of both universities because I'm a Rutgers guy, but with that D1 college level hockey tournament in Allentown, Pennsylvania, Michigan was the more hungry team. And even though there were more seniors for Penn State that wanted to win that game in overtime, Luke Hughes and Adam Fantilli, those guys, Seamus Casey, Ethan Edwards, they all got to experience and take out a more experienced team, but they were more determined, younger core group with a lot of skill and upside. And they just weren't finishing enough, but they will achieve that very soon, and they will be really good next year, even though Luke Hughes and Fantilli might not be there. So I will say for those people in the NHL entry draft, this is probably going to be the best draft class since 2013, maybe 2003. It's it's probably going to be one of those uh, best in a decade type drafts. And guys like Bedard, Michkov, Leo Carlson, Adam Fantilli, all these other really top notch forwards. And Dalibor Dvorsky, a Slovak center who can shoot the puck, probably the best since Marian Gaborik, in my eyes. Um, I really do think Yuri Slavkovsky over time in Montreal will become a really good power forward. I said before, I'd rather Montreal start him in Laval, and now he's in Laval. He's starting to get used to the North American ice, and coming over from Liga in Finland is not easy because it's a completely different surface. But for those of you who want to follow me, I'm also a contributor for Pucks and Pitchforks. My name is Joseph Stanislaw, better known as Jersey Joe, here on Heads Up Hockey. And give me a thumbs up on YouTube so the algorithm recognizes this wonderful work. And I appreciate you, the fans. Rate the podcast as high as you can. And see you next time. Let's go Devils. And happy Stanley Cup playoffs to everyone. For those teams who did not make it, enjoy the draft lottery.